Afghan and Sudanese refugees on the website. I think you have information of that in your packet. But thank you, gentlemen, both very much. We have an extraordinarily heavy panel to begin the conference with. I'm going to ask Ambassador Gulti, Alan Gulti, to introduce the speakers on the panel. Ambassador Alan Gulti was 40 years in the British Foreign Service. He, as one of his last posts, was as ambassador to Tunis, but he's also been ambassador to Sudan. And over a 40-year period, you, in the British Foreign Service, as in the American Foreign Service, you build up true expertise, deep expertise, by serving in a number of different capacities in the area that you become expert in. Ambassador Gulti has certainly done that. He has served in the beginning of his career in Sudan. He went back as ambassador in 95 to 99. He was the UK Special Representative to Darfur and the UK Special Representative to Sudan. He is currently now with the Woodrow Wilson Center, and we're extremely grateful for his contributions to this conference today. And if I could ask Ambassador Gulti to join us and to introduce the rest of the panel. Thank you.
He came on a visit, and after his briefing, as we were leaving, I said to one of my colleagues, "Well, that was a breath of fresh air, wasn't it?" And the colleague replied, "Breath? More like a bloody gale." So we're particularly keen on listening to him. Later in his career, he was UN Special Representative of the Secretary General to Sudan, and we share the distinction, if it is a distinction, of having been asked to leave by the Sudanese authorities. Andrew Natsios is almost as deeply experienced as anyone. He needs no introduction to this audience. He has huge experience of Sudan with World Vision as Administrator USAID and humanitarian coordinator for Sudan, and later as US Special Envoy. He's kept closely in touch, visited Juba last fall, and we look forward again to hearing from him. Ambassador Rosalind Marsden, now the EU Special Envoy to Sudan. I'm not sure whether it would embarrass her or me more to say that we go back a very long way. When I was a junior officer in the political section in Khartoum, Rosalind was the desk officer for Sudan who gave me my orders and scanned critically my reports. So it's a great pleasure to welcome her back to Washington. Nancy Lindbergh from the USAID, Assistant Administrator of the Bureau of Democracy, Conflict and Humanitarian Assistance, will be relieved to know that we go back only 5 minutes. So I can't tell any stories about her. What we're looking at today is the displacement challenges facing Sudan and the scope for EU-US cooperation in tackling them. And this panel is going to address the political and diplomatic context, as well, I hope, as shedding some light on the lessons of recent transatlantic cooperation, or lack of cooperation, in dealing with these and other issues in Sudan. And the aim of the project of which this panel and this morning's work forms part is, as I understand it, to generate some policy recommendations for common action which will enable us better to help the displaced and refugees in Sudan. So we look forward to a good and positive discussion when we've heard from our speakers. I've asked each of them to speak for 10 or 15 minutes, and then we can move to questions and answers. I think, John, we're on the record, are we? Are we on the record or off? Yes. We're on the record. And we're going to start with the two speakers whose experience of Sudan goes back a while, who will reflect on the lessons they have learned in the context of our discussion. And then we'll move on to two ladies. It's very good to see that the gender problems of Sudan are being addressed by having ladies in charge. Two ladies who will reflect on whether these lessons are being applied now in the present circumstances, or whether they should be or could be. So let me, without more ado, ask Minister Jan Pronk to take the floor.
Thank you, Ambassador Gulti. It's good that I start because I'm not the expert anymore. I've been to Sudan since 1973 many times, but I was ousted a couple of years ago and I've never been back. So I'm out of touch with the present developments in the country. And I said to Ambassador Gulti that I would like to come with a couple of general lessons learned, maybe in the beginning of a discussion on the political and diplomatic aspects that could serve a purpose. I have 10 lessons. I will be very brief and I will present them staccato. Number one, we have had many of these conflicts, in particular during the last 20 years, after the end of the Cold War. We were dealing with them in the beginning with a lot of humanitarian assistance, never enough, but anyway, that's what we did. And then later on, we were concentrating in particular on humanitarian intervention with military means, on the basis of a number of different mandates of the Security Council. Both are necessary in many cases for reasons of protection and for relief, in order to avoid killings and avoid protracted IDP and refugee situations, because that is a tragic situation all around the world. Millions and millions of people are in such situations. But neither of the two is sufficient. You need a political approach, not being built on the basis of humanitarian and military intervention. No, right from the outset, because you have to address the causes of a conflict. You can't solve them, but anyway, you have to address them also from outside. That's number one. Without a political approach, a political strategy, military and humanitarian strategies will not be sufficient. Number two, you have to do that timely. And when I say timely, I mean early. Early, very early. And I'm not speaking about early warning, well-known concept, but I'm speaking about early politically addressing. Not solving, difficult to solve, but anyway, addressing in order to, for instance, avoid escalation of conflicts. And you can escalate conflicts in many different ways.